Okay, so in this video we are going to look at two string-related methods, exercises 8.1 and 8.3 from the Think Java textbook. And we'll start off with 8.1, which is to write a method that takes a string as argument and prints the letters backwards, all on one line. So we'll create a new class. Let's call it String Labs, and then we'll do them both as part of the same one. Might as well just have it generate a main for us. Get rid of that, we don't really need those. So first, since we're going to be printing with our first method, we'll just call it a public and make it static, since we don't have a overarching class here. Make it a void method since we're just printing. We'll say print reversed, and it takes an argument of string. We'll just call it S. Now we'll be using a loop to do this, so we'll need an index. Make that integer, call it I. And you know what, let's make that equal to the length of our string minus 1. This will allow us to start at the last index and work backwards as we go through the string. And we'll do this with a while loop. So since we're going to be starting at the end of the string and go to the beginning, we'll say while our index is greater than or equal to 0. Since we use 0 indexed strings in Java, 0 will be the last string, or the last location in our string. And now what we want to do is print out each letter. So we'll do a system.out.print. But now, since we want to print them all out on the same line, we do not want to use print line. We want to just use print. And we'll say print and use the char at method, which will give us the character at this index. So the first time it'll be 5 or 4 or whatever, depending on the length of our string. You know, if we did a 5-character string, our initial index here would be 4, and we'll be looking at the 4th, which when you're indexing, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, that 4th one is your last one. And now we also have to update our indexing variable, and since we're going from the end of our string to the beginning and starting at a higher number and going towards 0, we want to use I minus minus. Now I minus minus, if you don't recall, is the same as saying I is equal to I minus 1. That's the equivalent to I minus minus. Now, just to be a little bit cleaner about things, let's do system.out.println without an argument, so we will just print only a new line at the end there, since we won't be getting a new line out of this at any point. So now let's test this. Let's just say print reversed, and let's be classic and give it hello world as an argument. Save, and click run. And here we go. We have successfully printed it backwards. No errors, no problems. Hello world. I'm not going to try and say it backwards. You can try that on your own. Now our next one is exercise 8.3, which is to encapsulate the code, as it says in section 8.7, of the Think Java textbook, which, if you don't have the textbook, basically uses a while loop to go through, as we've done in this previous method. Use a while loop to go through and check each character. And what it does is it compares it against our target character and increments a counter variable. So we'll do public static again. Now, however, we're going to want to return a count, which will be an integer. Let's call this one count character. Now we're going to give it a string to look through, call that S, and a char, which is character to look for, call it ch. Now, since we're going to return the count, we'll want a count variable, which we can initialize to 0. And we know that what we're going to want to return is the count, so we can already go ahead and return the count at the bar bottom, so we don't get that error. Now, to encapsulate the code, we'll need an index as well up here, which will also initialize to 0. We want to start at the beginning, and we'll be using a while loop again. And we'll say while index is less than the length of our string, which we can just do with s dot length. Then we're going to go through bit by bit and count. Since it depends on whether the character matches or not, we'll use an if statement and say if char at, and we'll want to use our index variable. Yep, index, that's what we want. And say if the character at that index of the string is equal to our target character up here. The string will be the search and what we're looking for. Then we want to increment our count. Do count plus plus, which, just like I minus minus up here, is equivalent to doing count equals count plus 1. However, it's cleaner and a little more foolproof just to do it that way with the increment operator. Now, no matter whether we find the character or not, we will want to update our loop control variable. Now let's try this. Let's do, I have a string test, which is equal to, let's just say test. And then we can use this for both of our methods that we've written. And let's say int char count. Initialize that to 0. We'll just use this so we can test the return from our count character. So let's say char count equals, and then do count character, and we'll just pass a test again. Let's see. Whatever am I getting here? Right. Let's look for T. That's what I was forgetting. The character we want to look for. Look for T. So now we can do system.out.print. I'm using printf again. I promise one of these days we'll explain exactly what printf does. You could always look it up if you like. Well, I'll explain it in situ here. If you put a parentheses sign before s in this case, that means that instead of %s, this will be replaced by whatever string we put here. In this case, we'll put the test string itself, so that will be printed out. So it'll say the string, and then whatever the string test equals, and then we'll say contains. Now if we do %d, that means we're going to put an integer in there. Then we can use char count. And then we'll say, I believe C is for the character. And then we need to throw in a new line here. This is what's called an escape character. It basically says put in a new line. Let's be a little more. We'll put the t in a variable too, so then we can pass it here to our printf. Now if I've done everything right and C is actually the formatting character for this should work fine. Yep, here we go. We get test backwards from print first, and the string test contains 1t. Oh, that's because I've made one capital. Here, I'll make it lowercase, and then we'll get two t's. If we change this to instead e, save and run, we'll get 1. If we change it to something that's not in the string at all, like say q, and run again, we'll get 0. So, there you are. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. I'll try and answer them. Okay, until next time, goodbye.